If we found out that errors or bugs at the early stage, then it's also going to be helpful in order to reduce the development cost. We have two kinds or two levels of software testing. One is functional testing and another one is non-functional testing. So before releasing this software or a product to the actual user, they are going to have some set of audience or a user. Hello everybody, a warm welcome to one and all. Welcome to the first session of Unit 4 of B.Ca. 6th semester subject called Software Engineering. I am Rohini TS, Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. So as we all know that in the fourth unit, we are going to deal with the testing and project management. So before getting into our today's session, you just recall. So first, if you consider the SDLC or a software development life cycle, there we have several different phases or different levels we have, right? So first I have to go with a feasibility study, whether it is possible to implement the software or not. Once it got satisfied, then I need to start with a collection of requirements. If all the requirement has been collected, that means gathering of the requirement is over, then that requirements of a customer needs to be analyzed. That work will going to be done by the analyst. So these are the one phases that we have learnt in each of the unit along with each chapters of particular units. And also once the analysis is done, that needs to be converted into some diagrammatic representation that has to be in the format of structural representation, that is related to what? Designing part. So in the designing we have top down, bottom up. That is what we have learned in the previous sessions as well as classes. So even designing got over, then that needs to be converted into some programming language. We are going to call that as a coding, right? Writing a program, or when we are writing a set of instruction to make the computer work as per the requirement of a customer, then we are going to call that as a coding. So if coding is also done, then that needs to be maintained as a document. That is what code document that I have discussed in the last unit called unit 3, right? So once the coding, implementation, everything is got over, so now it's the time to validate that. That is what? Testing. So you have to do the testing whether it is working as per our requirements or not. That is what testing phase. Even testing is also over. Now it's time to deliver that product or a project or a software to the customer for their usage. So once it reaches to the customer, then it's our duty to have a maintenance of that particular software or a system. So for that we are going to call that further stage after the deployment is considered as what? Maintenance. That is what about this unit 4. So in the taxonomy of software testing, mainly you are going to learn about the basic definition of a software testing, and also I will be discussed with the levels of software testing. This is what we are going to learn in our today's session. Let me get into the session. First we'll see what do you mean by software testing. So till now we have did all the implementation, coding, everything got over. So now we have to test, right? So how can I do that testing? Here you can see that software testing is the process of evaluating and verifying that we have to evaluate and we have to verify that a software product or an application does work it is supposed to do. So that means we are checking whether it is working as per our requirements or not. We are verifying as well as we are evaluating whether this project or a product or a software is working as per the requirement of a customer. And also then what is the benefit of doing this testing? So we have did all the things which is related to implementation. Then why this testing is important? Because it will going to preventing bugs, it will going to include or it will let us know what we have as a error in the system or a software. So we can have the reduction or prevention of errors or a bugs, and also it reduces the development cost. If I got to know the bugs or any of the errors at the early stage, then it will going to reduce the cost of making some changes to the system. So once it built with errors, then it would cost more in order to do some changes. But if we found out that errors or bugs at the early stage, then it's also going to be helpful in order to reduce the development cost. So if there is no bugs and if it is verified and validated as well as evaluated as per the requirement of a customer, then the development time is also low as well as cost which is taking for that development is also going to be low, and it also going to improves the performance of a system. So in order to have all these benefits, it's necessary to do the software testing, right? So then what are the levels of testing we have? So we have different methodology to test the system in order to check or to verify or to evaluate whether it is working properly or not. So among that, we have two kinds or two levels of software testing. One is functional testing and another one is non-functional testing. So we should not leave any one of this. Why? Because functional testing is related to functional specification of a software. This non-functional testing is related to non-functional specification that may include security, authentication testing. All those are very, very important. So we'll see about this functional testing in our today's session. So here, what do you mean by functional testing now? So mainly, this is based on the specification of the software that is to be tested. Mainly, it will going to focuses on the specification. That too with respect to the functional specification. So here the application is tested by providing an input and then the results are examined that needs to confirm that the functionality it was intended for. So here I am giving some input and processing will going to take place. Then I will get the resultant or a output. I am checking if I am giving 2 plus 3, am I getting the result as 5? That is what we are checking in the functional testing. We are checking its specification. We are concerning it's regarding its functionality. So we are giving some input. Based on that input, am I getting the proper output for the particular given input? That is what we are going to check in the functional testing. So here it's conducted on a complete integrated system to evaluate the system's compliance with its specified requirements. Whether it is working properly as per the requirements or not will going to be done in this functional testing, and it can take place at the time of complete, when a complete or a whole system is ready. At that time we can do this functional testing, or at the time of integration. So you will get to know what about this integrated testing or a system testing in my coming slides. So as of now, we are going to do this functional testing at the time of complete testing, that is system testing, or at the time of integration system. So here you can see that we have 5 steps that are involved while testing the application for functionality. How can I do the functionality test? How can we get to know whether it is satisfying the specifications or not? In order to do that, we have 5 steps here. In that first step, first we have to determine the functionality. So if I don't know the functionality, how can I check the resultant against this functionality? So it is necessary to determine the functionality first. Then the creation of test data, which is going to be based on the specification of the application. First I need to determine functionality. So for that functionality I have to write the test data. So once the test data is ready, then the output based on the test data and the specification of the application. So here test data requirements will or functionality will be the input. Then we are going to get the test data as a resultant. So the output which we are going to get as a resultant, that will going to be based on the test data as well as specification. Then the writing of test scenarios. Based on this test data, we are going to write this test scenarios along with the execution of the test cases. So here I have to check it out what are the functionality or a specification we have, and by making use of this test data and specification as an input, then I will get the output. For that output, we have to write the test scenarios and execution of that test cases. So once all is okay, then we have to make a comparison between the input as well as to the output. That is what input is actual and expected resultant will be the output. So these are the 5 steps we need to follow when we are having this functionality check to check the functionality or a specification of a system. So amongst that, first we have a unit testing. As the name indicates, for example, if you consider a project or a system, will it going to be compiled or will it going to be manufactured with a single module or single unit? No, right? It will be of group of units. It will be of group of modules. So testing of each module or testing of each functionality of all the modules or all the units of a particular system will going to give us a resultant of efficient and effective resultant as a project or a product or a software or a system, right? So in that, first we have a unit testing. Each unit needs to be tested independently. So we have to give some input and I have to check certain output, whether it is giving the resultant as per the actual versus expectation. Both are same, that we have to find out or to test. So when it comes to the unit testing, it will going to be performed by the developer before the setup is handed over to the testing team. So first we know, right? So we have to write a code, then it has to be given to the testing team. So here unit testing will going to be performed by the developer. So once the development is done, they will check, do we have any errors in it? Will it going to work as per the requirement of a customer? That everything will going to be checked by the developer. So before it is handling to the or before it is handed over to the testing team to formally execute the test cases. So once they know the specification and its test cases and all, they will check against this test cases whether it is working properly or not. So this will going to be done by the developers, remember. So after that, unit testing is performed by the respective developers on the individual units of source code assigned areas. For example, you will be assigned to unit 1. Okay, and I am doing unit 3 and somebody else doing unit 2. So it's my duty or responsibility to check my unit whether it is working properly or not. Being a developer, I have to check my individual unit and another developer will going to check their another unit. So when all the units are working properly, then we can say that unit testing is over. Then we can hand it over that unit as a system to the testing team. So we are going to check the particular unit of a source code, and the developers use test data that is different from the test data of the quality assurance team. So here I am not concerning about the quality assurance or a QA. So you are mainly concerning regarding whether it is working properly or not as per the specification. And also the main goal of this unit testing is to isolate, very important point. For example, if I am sending money from my account to certain recipient account, if the amount is deducting from your account, will it be okay for you? No, right? Nobody will going to agree for that. In the same way, isolation in the sense what? If I am doing some changes or any of the upgradation is happening with respect to unit 3, that should not affect on the content of unit 1. And if any other changes is happening in any other unit, should not affect on this unit 3 also. That is what? Isolation should be there. And even for the transaction, isolation should be there. So the main goal of this unit testing is to isolate each part of the program and show that its individual parts are correct in terms of requirements and functionality. So mainly to check the correctness of the requirement and functionality, we are going to do this unit testing. And also here you can see that we have certain limitation, that means disadvantages we have. Though we are using it as a first testing type in the development team, we also have certain limitations. What it include? Cannot catch each and every bug in an application. So we are unable to reach out every bug or errors in a complete program, and it is impossible to evaluate every execution path in every software application. So always we can't expect 100% result, no. So here also we can't evaluate all the execution path in all over application. And developers will not going to allow to have the n number of scenarios. There must be a limit. So there is a limit to the number of scenarios. So in that scenarios only, or in that test cases only, they have to check whether it is working properly or not. That is what. And also after having exhausted all the options, if I am done with all the scenarios or all the circumferences, at the time I don't have any choice but to stop the unit testing and merge the code segment with other units. For example, unit 3 or unit number 3 is going to have a limitation of 4 kind of scenarios. At the time, I can't add one more scenarios to check its correctness of specification as well as functionality. If it is 4, then it has to be checked within 4 scenarios only. So if I don't have any other option, then I have to merge and I have to say this is working properly, and though if we have any errors in the unit 3, will not going to be solved at the time of development. These are the disadvantages we can expect when it comes to the unit testing. Next is what? That's regarding integration testing. So now I have tested unit 1, unit 2 and unit 3. Consider I have 3 units in my software and unit 1 has been tested, unit 2 has been tested, unit 3 has been tested. Now it's time to check whether unit 1 is working properly with a unit 2. Is unit 2 is working properly with a unit 3? If I am merging this unit 3 with unit 1, will it going to work properly? That is what we are doing in the integration testing. So when I am integrating or combining one or more unit, whether it is working as with the functionality and specification. That is what we are checking here. So integration testing is defined as the testing of combined parts of an application to determine if they function correctly. So all are working independently here. So unit 1, unit 3, all the 3 don't have any errors or any bugs. But if I am integrating it, if I am combining it, will it going to work properly or not? That we have to check in the terms of integration testing. So in order to do this integration testing, we have two methodology. One is bottom-up integration and another one is top-down integration. How this bottom-up integration will going to work? So it will going to start with a unit testing. For example, here only you can see that here we have a unit 3, unit 2, unit 1, and also it will going to be merged with a unit 4, unit 5, unit 6, unit 7. This is what? So in the bottom-up approach, it will begins with the unit testing followed by the test of progressively higher level of combination of units called modules or builds. So here I am going to call each level or each unit as a modules or builds here. So first I need to start with a particular unit. So then it going to the higher level again to the higher level. So it will be in the bottom up approach. So next we have a top down integration. In this testing, the highest level modules are tested first. How it will be then? Again reverse order. Here unit 1 will be the higher level and I will go with unit 2 and unit 3. Again this will be converted into what? Unit 4, unit 5. So it will going to start with a higher level, then the progressively lower level modules are tested thereafter. First I have to check unit 1, unit 2, amongst that we have unit 4, 5, then I will come to unit 3. So higher level to lower level. This is how this integration testing will going to work. So usually we are going to do this bottom up integration first, later we will go with this top down integration. So next we'll see about the system testing. So unit testing is over. By combining that unit, all the integration test is also over. Then why we have to have this system testing? It will going to test the system as a whole. For example, you just consider I have unit 1, unit 2 and we have unit 3. Okay, consider all these are what? Integrated and all these are working properly. And I have one more module. And here it will be of U4, U5 and here we have U6, U7, right? This is one of the other module. So if I wanted to check or to test it completely, then I have to check it as a whole, whether it is working properly or not. That is what we are going to do in the system testing. So here we are checking the system as a whole, and once all the components are integrated. So here all the components are integrated. Even we can merge with one module to another module are integrated. The application as a whole is tested rigorously to see that meets the software quality standard, whether it is following the standards of a quality of a system or not. That will going to be evaluated in the system testing. And also this type of testing is performed by a specialized testing team. So this can't be done by a developer, can't be done by a normal tester. There must be one specialized testing team, because we are not doing unit testing or integration testing. We are integrating all the integrated units in order to test the complete system as a whole. So the specialized testing team is required in order to have it. Next we'll see about the regression testing. So up to now we got to know unit testing, integration and system testing. Why this regression testing is important? You imagine I have unit 6, up to unit 6 I have. Now I wanted to add unit 7 and I wanted to do some changes with respect to unit 5. So if I am doing some changes to unit 5 and if I am adding unit 7 to the existing system, will it going to affect by adding or by modifying, will it going to affect on any other units, its functionality? In order to check that, we are going to have this regression testing. That means we are checking whether it is affecting any other modules of a system or whether it is getting affected by any other modules of a system. So if we are putting more salt to any of the curry, at the time we are going to taste whether it is having particular consistency or not. That means we are checking after doing some modification, will it going to affect on the system or it is working properly. We have to check those conditions. In order to have that, here we have a regression testing. So whenever a change in a software application is made, it is quite possible that other areas within the application have been affected by its change. So when we are doing some changes to the application, there could be a chances of changing the functionality of application which we are using. So that we are going to have this regression testing mainly to verify that fixed bug has not resulted in another functionality or a business rule violation. It should not violate any of the business rule or it should not affect the functionality of any other system. So in order to get to know that, we are going to have this regression testing, and also it ensures that a change such as bugs fixing should not result in another fault being uncovered in the application. So for example, if I am recovering the bugs or errors in unit 3, will not going to showcase the error of unit 2. So if you are doing some changes, that should not affect and should not get affected by another units. So in order to get to know that, we have this regression testing. And also why it's necessary to do this regression testing, what is the advantages? Mainly it will minimize the gaps in the testing when an application with changes made has to be tested. So if I am doing some changes within a unit, we have to check whether it is working properly or not. Then there should not be a gap between unit 1 and unit 2. In order to fill that or to minimize that gap, then we have to have this regression testing. Whether you are compatible with this changes and or not, then that needs to be checked. That is why we are going to have this regression testing and testing the new changes to verify that the changes made did not affect any other area of the application. So it should not affect any other area of the application when we are making some changes to the existing system, and mitigates risk when regression testing is performed on the application. And also test coverage is increased without compromising the timelines. So when the test coverage is more, then the risk will be low and efficiency will be high. And also it increases the speed to market the product. So if there is no changes, when we are making a changes, if there is no bugs or if it is working compatibly, then we can release the product as soon as possible to the market. So these are the advantages we can expect. So now let's see about the next one, that is related to acceptance testing. So why we are supposed to accept the software or a system which has been tested. So in this acceptance testing, it will going to be done by the quality assurance team, that in short we can call that as a QA team. So who will going to gauge whether the application meets the intended specification and satisfies the client's requirement. They will be checking whether it is satisfying the requirements of a customer or not. It's like what? Accepting or rejecting the software. So if it is satisfying the requirements of a customer and it is satisfying the specification of that product or a project, then only we can accept that particular software. It will be done by the quality assurance team or a QA team. So This will going to have a set of pre-written scenarios. They are going to have certain scenarios. I am going to give 2 plus 3, 5 plus 9. So I just have certain scenarios. If I am giving that value, will it giving a particular result and or a proper result? Based on that, we will be checking that. So it will going to have a set of pre-written scenario and test cases that will be used to test the application. Based on that scenarios and pre-written scenarios along with the test cases, we are checking the proper specification or satisfying the requirements of a clients. And also here the more ideas will be shared about the application and more tests can be performed onto it, which will going to help in order to improve the accuracy and reason why project was initiated. We will be able to understand what is the reason of doing this project. So will it be okay to accept that project or to reject? And also it will going to improve the accuracy when we are doing this acceptance testing. And also this acceptance testing is not only concerned regarding what finding the mistake or cosmetic errors or interface gaps, and also mainly it will going to be helpful in order to remove the bugs in the application. So if we remove the bug or if we point out or if we get to know the bugs, then it will also going to be helpful in order to have a efficient usage of a system, and also which may result in system crash or major errors in the application can be found out with the help of this acceptance testing. And also by performing this acceptance testing of an application, the testing team will going to reduce how the application will perform in production. That means at time of production which is taking for the production of that product or a project will going to be reduced. And also we have some legal and contractual requirements for acceptance of the system. So based on certain requirements or a legal and contractual requirement, based on that we have to accept a particular system or a product. It's regarding what? Acceptance testing. Next we'll see about this alpha testing. So now we'll see about this alpha testing. So this is also considered as one of the first stage of testing and will be performed amongst the team. So that team may include development team will be there as well as QA, that is quality assurance team. So why? Because developers will going to have their own perception, but in the quality assurance team they are going to have some set of standards. So when we are integrating unit testing, integration testing and system testing together, then we are going to call that as a alpha testing. So we have complete testing, we have a unit testing, integration testing as a system. So if I am doing it completely, then we are going to call that as what? Alpha testing. Then what will going to be done in this alpha testing? So mainly in order to test the spelling mistakes. So any errors is arising with respect to spelling mistake and broken links, one unit is not working properly with another unit, one module is not working properly with another module, and to check the cloudy direction. Along with that, the application will be tested on machines with a lowest specification to test loading times and any latency problem. So here we are going to minimize or we are going to have a lowest specification. So like must be able to have food in the footpath as well as in the 5-star hotel. That means what? You must have some compatibility. Even I am giving the lowest specification to test its loading capacity along with its latency performance. So all these will going to be checked in the alpha testing. So here next we have a beta testing. And I have one more question for you. You just tell me, this Google Chrome and all those Google related things are working based on this beta version, right? So is it okay to lodge a complaint against Google Chrome or not? You just tell me regarding this beta testing, right? So here in the beta testing, mainly it is performed after the alpha testing. So alpha testing is over, then only we have to have this beta testing. So in this, a sample of the intended audience test the application. It's like a premiere show. So before releasing the movie, they will call certain restricted number of audience and they will watch the movie and they can see, like they will get their feedback to check it out how the movie is all about. So in order to do the same thing With respect to the software, they are going to have some intended audience. They will, development team or testing team will going to give that application to the particular audience to make use of that, and also considered as what? Pre-release testing. So before releasing this software or a product to the actual user, they are going to have some set of audience or a user. So they will be given that software has been given to that particular audience. They have to check. Then that's why it's considered as what? Pre-release testing. And also beta test versions of the softwares are ideally distributed to a wide audience on the web. Everybody will going to get that opportunity to test the beta version of a system. That is why I told whatever the applications we have with respect to Google Chrome and all those are of beta version. They won't authenticate. Whatever the information that we are giving is authenticate, right? So they will including every data day by day and even minute by minute. That is what everybody can access throughout the web, partly to give the program real world test and partly provided preview of the next release. So by taking their feedback of the customer or by the audience, they will improve their versions of a software or a system. So in order to do this, we have this beta testing so that we can't lodge a complaint against Google Chrome or any other browser. And also next, what this audience will going to do or test in the beta testing. So they have to install, run the application and send their feedback to the project team. So if you are installing some of the applications or apps from the Play Store, you may able to send your feedback, right? So we want this feature and this feature is not working properly. All these things can be happen when we have this beta testing. And also it specifies typographic errors, confusing application flow and even crashes. So all these can be given as a feedback to them, and getting the feedback, the project team can fix the problems before releasing the software to the actual user. So it's like a premiere show, as I told earlier. So they will take the feedback, they will fix that bugs or errors, and they will give it to the actual users once it got updated. And also the more issues you fix, that's all the real user problem. So your main intention is to fix more bugs or to reduce the number of errors in the system, and it will going to improve the quality of the application. And also having a higher quality application, when you release it or general public, will increase the customer satisfaction. So if the quality of the application is more or high, at the time satisfaction of a customer will be more. At the time more people will going to offer your project, product or a software. It's regarding what? Beta testing. I hope you all understood my today's session. So today we have learned regarding this functional testing. So in our coming session, we're going to see what about this non-functional testing and what are the types we have when it comes to the non-functional testing. Let me meet you in the next session. Until that, keep learning, keep on growing. Thank you.